reverting to the original process. I'm not suggesting we can do this on a grand scale, but we can pick a species, study its growth as an embryo, learn how it develops, and learn how to change that development. Then we can experiment with individual embryos, intervening in development in different ways, with no change, with one change, or several changes. This would be a bit like rerunning Game 6 of the 1986 World Series between the New York Mets and the Boston Red Sox, when a ground ball ran between first baseman Billy Buckner's legs and changed the tide of the series. We would be doing more than just fiddling with the tape. We would be redoing the play with Billy Buckner and all the players. And the idea would be to determine the precise cause of the Mets' joy and Red Sox sadness. Was it Buckner's failing legs, the speed of the ball, the topography of the field? What caused him to miss the ball? And when we think we know the cause, we test our hypothesis. We give him younger legs or smooth out the field, and then we see if, in this altered set of circumstances, he snags the grounder. That's impossible to do in baseball. We don't have a way to go back in time. We can do it with computer models, of course, in both baseball and biology. But with current technology and our current understanding of development and evolution, we could also do it with a living organism. This ability is largely the result of a new and thriving field of research that has joined together the study of how an embryo develops with the study of how evolution occurs. The idea, in simple terms, is that because the shape or form of an animal emerges as it grows from a fertilized egg to hatching or birth, any evolutionary change in that shape must be reflected in a change in the way the embryo grows. For example, in a long-tailed ancient bird embryo, the tail would have started to develop and continued to develop until the chick hatched with a full tail. The embryos of descendant species, which hatched with no tails, would have to develop in a different way. We can observe the embryos of modern birds as they develop, and if we can pinpoint the moment at which the tail stops growing, and we can figure out exactly what events occurred at the molecular level to stop tail growth, we can say that's where the change occurred in evolution. And that's an idea we can test. We can try intervening at that moment in the embryo's growth to change the growth and development signals back to what we believe they were before the tail disappeared in evolution. If we are right, then the long tail should grow. If we can do this with a tail, we ought to be able to do it with teeth, feathers, wings, and feet. The most studied and most available bird for both laboratory and culinary experiments is the chicken. Why couldn't we take a chicken embryo and biochemically nudge it this way and that until what hatched was not a chicken, but a small dinosaur with teeth, forearms with claws, and a tail? No reason at all. We haven't done it yet, but we are taking the first small steps. And this book is about those steps, the path ahead, what we could learn, and why we should try, from a scientific and ethical point of view. This may sound like something that belongs in a movie. It seems very remote from my specialty, vertebrate paleontology, in particular the study of dinosaurs. Paleontologists, after all, are the slightly eccentric folks who dig up old bones in sun-drenched badlands and like to talk too much about skulls and femurs. Well, that may be true as far as it goes, but that's only part of the story. At heart, every paleontologist is as much Frank Buck as Stephen Jay Gould. Frank Buck was a real person who became a hero of movies and books before and after World War II. He went into the jungles and remote places of the world and brought back not fossils, but exotic, living animals. He was, and this appealed to many a small boy, not a hunter who killed his prey, but a collector of live animals. And his motto, once as well known as any of today's catchphrases, was, "Bring 'em back alive." Well, paleontologists may deal with the long dead.